Hello. Welcome to Voice of Her Own. Welcome to Living and Learning every Wednesday at 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Oh, I hope it didn't get cut off, but here we go. Every Wednesday on Pacific Standard Time, I, Allison Kinnear, hop on and give a talk about living and learning. Today, we are talking about VUCA and why you need to know about it. So, um, first of all, let me just tell you, I plan to talk to you about VUCA already because it's something that can make you feel like an imposter if you already have if you struggle with your confidence, if you struggle with your courage, if you struggle with feeling like you're a fraud and nobody else has figured it out yet. Chances are likely that there is a high level of VUCA in the nature of your work. Now, what's interesting about today is that today, I believe the COVID-19 was actually called and labeled a pandemic. So not only might you be dealing with VUCA in your work, but globally, we are all experiencing VUCA in our society, in our world. So what is VUCA? VUCA is a term that the American War College, they love giving acronyms. For any of you who have worked for the military or been in the military know that VUCA is an acronym, and it stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So this is one of the concepts that I break down in my imposter syndrome talk. So let me break it down for you here. So volatility just means things change. They change in unpredictable ways. So we don't exactly know how it's going to change. You can't really predict it. It's just going to change on its own, which is something we're experiencing every day, right? U is uncertainty. So the uncertainty is we're not really sure cause and effect. We don't really know. Things are just like we don't know what the outcome is going to be, right? So, and with this virus, we have some certainty. Actually, we know hand washing is important, not touching your face, social distancing. There's all these things that we do know. So, with this virus, right, we have a high level of volatility, maybe a lower level of uncertainty. C stands for complexity. So, complexity meaning it hits many different organizations, many different peoples. It's a complex issue. It's not simple and straightforward. It's not measured twice and cut once. It is complex. It is far more complex with that if you change one thing, it's going to change it's going to have an impact in other areas. So when it comes to this pandemic, right, it's very complex. There's so many different factors that are weighing in that add to that complexity. So it's probably high in complexity. And then A is ambiguity. Ambiguity are the unknown unknowns, right? And I would say during the time of this pandemic, there's a lot of ambiguity. There's a lot of unknown unknowns. We don't know, this is a brand new virus. We don't even know what the long-term impacts are. We don't know the short-term impacts. There's so much that we don't know about this situation. So while I'm relating it to our current health situation, it's important to note that VUCA applies to the business world too. And some of you who work in jobs or work in professions with a high level of VUCA, high level of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, this might feel like VUCA on top of VUCA, right? It's like on steroids. And so it can lead to heightened anxiety. It can lead to panic. We've seen this with the toilet paper thing, right? It can lead to a lot of coping behaviors. And one of the things that I actually wrote an article for LinkedIn the other day, I'll put a link. Look at this. I'm gonna update in real time. It's a link article that I wrote for LinkedIn yesterday that talks about how do we navigate the unknown, because that's what VUCA is. A lot of it is just the unknown. And So I want to talk about like what we can do both in the business world as well as during these uncertain times with this pandemic around, so that we can not add to the collective panic, that we can find ways to cope um, with ourselves and take care of ourselves. I have a mentor who just yesterday said there is our own individual nervous system, and then there is our collective nervous system. And so we're feeling all the feelings that we're feeling internally, but we're also tapping into the collective nervous system and the anxieties around us. This is not to make, I will say this is something really important. This is not to say it's either all bad and we've got pandemonium and chaos and panic, nor all good, everything's totally fine and it's all going to work out. Our mind likes for us to live in either of those worlds, right? It wants to be in either everything's going to hell in the handbasket or everything's going to be great. And what part of the anxiety, I think, is that we are in this gray area. We're in this place in the middle where both our fear is present, but our faith is present as well. And so this is what happens to us even without a global health crisis, right? Like we are challenged in the workplace, in our families, in life, to be with both, and. And what can be straining is when we're ping-ponging back and forth between the two. It's like we're catastrophizing one moment and then we're totally minimizing and telling ourselves it's going to be okay the next. And then we're back to the panic and catastrophizing. That is exhausting. And so while it's difficult to hold both of those truths at the same time, it's actually a little easier and it's more it's more true than the false truths that either side tries to convey. So part of what we need to do is recognize that fear is present. It's here. There's fear. There's fear about economy. There's fear about health. There's fear about our loved ones. There's fear about our work. There's fear about staying home with our children for who knows how long. There's fear, right? So the fear is there. And yet what's also there is information, our ability to be resilient, our faith in our own immune systems, our faith in our economy, our faith in humanity. So both are present at the same time. And part of it is just creating a space big enough to hold all of that. In the business world, they talk about how do you navigate VUCA? You navigate VUCA by creating enough space, maybe a little more time for experimenting. You gather as much data and information as possible. You problem solve and run through scenarios. You try to understand the problem. You reach out to experts and you try to resource yourself or the project enough so that it can be successful regardless. These are the same principles that can apply to our daily lives. We can inform ourselves with experts. We can take action to prepare ourselves depending on whatever and problem solve in whatever situation there is. We can resource ourselves by having faith in ourselves, being mindful of what we feed ourselves in terms of information, to remember that health is available to us as well as the possible exposure, right? We can hold both of those at the same time. That illness and health can be present at the same time. That challenges at work and opportunities at work can be present at the same time. These are ways that we can support our wholeness, our whole well-being. I read something recently that talked excuse me, that talked about how health or to heal means to be made whole. And part of creating enough space, creating enough resources, experimenting, gathering information, part of that making whole is not dividing ourselves up to be like, okay, I'm just going down the fear and panic road, or I'm just going down the let's ignore this and hope it passes road, but rather to be whole, to be with both and. And one of the greatest things that you can give yourself, in addition to help yourself feel your resiliency, to be in your resiliency, is to be grateful in the moment. If you talk to anyone who's experienced trauma, who's experienced tragic loss and atrocities, they will tell you the importance of being grateful for the good times, the times you do have. So every day, I am so grateful for the health and well-being of my family at this moment. Not just my nuclear family here, but my parents, my brother, my extended family, my friends. So far, so good, and I am so grateful. This is a gratitude that we can offer. And what that gratitude does is it breathes space and it allows for us to create more stickiness of the positive things and allow ourselves to have a more balanced perception. Our brains have a negative bias. So what that means is that we are really sticky. We're like Velcro with the negative information, and we're very slippery. We're like Teflon with positive information. So what happens then is our perception of the world can get really skewed towards the negative. And by practicing gratitude, what you're doing is you're making sure that your perception of the world is actually balanced and not in that negative bias. So, and what it also does is it breathes more space so your prefrontal cortex can come back online. And instead of being in fear and panic, it can be in possibilities and seeing what the options are. It can tap you into your resourcefulness and your ability to figure things out. So this is why understanding VUCA, understanding the kind of the soup that we're all swimming in. And I'm hoping that some of these tips I gave you are helpful for you as you navigate the VUCA, whether it's in your professional life or just in this global scene that we're in right now. If you want more tools, because let me tell you, what I gave you is the tip of the iceberg when it comes to tools. If you want more tools, consider enrolling in my Courageous Leadership course. It originally was called the Confident Leadership course, and then I realized, no, this is less about confidence. Yes, it's about confidence, but it's also about courage. How do we show up as courageous leaders in life? Whether you consider yourself to be a leader or not, how do you build the tools so you can learn to live and act with courage and with integrity and with authenticity? That's what the course is about. And guess what? It's online, so we don't have to cancel anything. I just received a call from the local library saying one of my meetings has been canceled because they can't have people actually meeting in person. So this is great. If you are all on home quarantine, why not build more tools in your toolbox? This is a 6-week course. It starts March 30th. And it is to help you learn so many tools around courage, around confidence, around communication. It's all there. It's $497, March 30th. I will put a link in the comments so you can take a look at what is out there. And thank you. Charlene, thank you so much. Beautiful as always. Likewise. I wish you a wonderful week of living and learning, a wonderful week of holding both truths at the same time. And may we always remember that the faith is there even when the fear is there. Blessings to you all. I wish you all so much health. Keep your hands clean, and I'll see you next week.